Todo por iniciativa personal, no es ni la universidad que los contrata para esto.
Bună seara, bună seara. I think we will begin, and I ask our expanded team to let the others know that we begin, and if people come, please welcome them in the hall. Welcome everybody to MAZZOCCHIO.TALKS 10th edition. This conference is dedicated to the architectures of Chilean Art and Cecilia Puga. So we have our guests from Chile, and I want to start by saying an important thank you for making all this journey here and being a part of our academic universe, as I'm seeing here most of our university. I want to say that we are deeply honored by the presence of His Excellency Julio Bravo Iubini, Ambassador of Chile. Thank you for being here with us. It is an important thing for us as a cultural entity to have the support of such important entities that acknowledge the importance of culture and of architectural culture. I want to say that MAZZOCCHIO, so it's a magazine. It has started as a magazine born at the intersection of architecture, of practice, and academia. And we produce magazines, conferences, and there's also the studio, MAZZOCCHIO. This conference is possible thanks to the Order of Architects from Romania, through the duty stamp. We won the cultural funding session. And I also want to extend our thank yous to the Order of Architects from Bucharest, who has been our partner and have believed in us and have helped us bring this conference to reality. I want to say, I want to present the organizing team, which is an important team. So first of all, Irina Melița and myself, we are the founding members of MAZZOCCHIO Foundation, as I said. And we are the editorial board of the conferences. Then I want to say thank you to Emil Burba and Cristi Borcan, with whom we run the MAZZOCCHIO studio in the university. And with them, I will do that again in the end of the conference. I want to say thank you to our 31 students who helped us and worked, and their work is being presented downstairs as part of the first 6 weeks project. And also there's the accompanying magazine, MAZZOCCHIO, also issue 10, that has been produced with the help of our former students, or still our students in another year for diplomas, Eliza Voiculescu and Dana Avramescu. Thank you. I want to say that similarly as the exhibition is available downstairs, and you passed next to it coming here, you will be able to see it in the break, and you can engage in talks with our students. And the magazine comprises interviews with Smilian and Cecilia. Thank you very much for meeting us on Zoom during the summer. Also, not here, but we want to say thank you to Rodrigo Perez de Arte, who was very kind to give us, to offer us an exterior perspective from from the one that is so involved in this conference. He is an important professor and theoretician from Chile who had an important academic activity also in the United Kingdom, in London, and also has been a close friend of Romania, being here on several occasions. And I want to say again, in a few words, I want to present the format of the evening. So we will begin with the conference of Cecilia Puga, which I will introduce you in a second. Then we will take a short break of 10 minutes. Then we'll follow the conference of Smiljan Radic. And then, and this is where I wanted to get, will be a session of answers, of questions. So, a Q&A session. So, and we will have a dialogue here on stage. So, please, if you have, during the conferences, any questions, note them, mental notes, physical notes, and please raise your hand at the end. Our students will come with the microphone to give you the opportunity to talk to them. So this is the magazine. You can check it later. Now I want to introduce Cecilia. So Cecilia, thank you for being here. We met during the Zoom conference. Of course, we have been talking about your work for a longer period, and on this occasion we went and found out more about your work and about the background of Chile, and also with you and with Rodrigo we discovered about the University Catholic of Chile, where you graduated, and you have also Cecilia has also studied 1 year in Rome, which I think it's very interesting from the, this multicultural point of view. After graduating, Cecilia Puga has worked mostly on her own, having various collaborations, sharing also an office space with Smiljan during several years. And she has done all kinds of works, from small to bigger ones, houses, apartment buildings, and educational and industrial equipment. And now she is the director of Cecilia Puga and Paula Velasco Arhitectura. In 2014, they won an important competition for Palacio Pereira, who has been done together with Alberto Moleto. Cecilia Puga has developed her academic activity in Chile, in Europe at ETH, in the United States at Harvard, just to name a few of the institutions, and her work has been published. And I think we have talked about this, and is, I think, a very important thing. Cecilia now is the director of the Chilean Museum of Pre-Columbian Art. Maybe things will touch this thing. Now, I wanted, as on a maybe personal note, to say that, well, I have been aware for a long time about of your work and of those beautiful houses that have such an extraordinary presence. And even though I had not the opportunity to visit them, they have such a strong presence, and you feel the very dense atmosphere that they produce. And of course, from so far away, from Romania to Chile, you discovered those fantastic landscapes, and then your houses. And of course, this is Bahia Azul, one of the most important houses Cecilia has designed. I had this feeling that theory and practice somehow managed to be condensed in a very strong way, and the landscape and architecture become one only thing. And this change of scale that such a small building can contain and be so eloquent for the entire landscape and for our profession somehow, for our cultural discipline, is really something that sticks with you. And of course, after that, we have discovered the other projects, Palacio Pereira also, and the other houses which we have discussed with our students in the studio in the first 6 weeks. And Cecilia, thank you very much for coming, and I invite you here on stage to give the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Hello. This is the. I first want to say thank you to all of you this night to be here, to be with us, to the Order of Architects that make possible for me to be here, and especially to Stefan and Irina and MAZZOCCHIO because of all the big effort they are doing to produce this fantastic opportunity to show our work here in Bucharest. And I would like to start, if I make this work, by looking again at 4 cartography produced at different time in the 20th century, which represent early effort to situate the Americas culturally and South America in particular in a global context. This is Buckminster Fuller's The Maximum World, produced in 1943 and published by Life magazine in New York. In this representation, Fuller anticipated the globalized world of the end of the century as a single continuous continent. It is a dismembered but unitarian Pangea presented without considering the reality of the magnetic pole as a guiding axis. It presents us as an image of physical unity that speaks of hyperconnection of possible migrations from one end to the globe to the other, that dismantle hierarchy and open up new point of view about the definition of unit, borders, and edges. The large continental island makes it possible to amplify ecological, cultural, and social implications of the world order, which today are topics that structure contemporary political debate. A counterpoint to Fuller's global vision is a series of drawings of South America published in the poem Amereida in 1967. The epic poem Amereida, a direct reference to Homero's Eneida, it's a choral work derived from the note drawings and experience of the land journey made by teachers from the Valparaiso School of Architecture and their guests in 1965, 2 years before its publication. It is also the founding text of the first Chilean architectural avant-garde, which emerged during the 70s and founded the open city of Ritoque, facing the Pacific of Chile's central coastline. Starting from Tierra del Fuego, the route is traced by superimposing the Southern Cross onto the outline of the continent, thus creating 2 axes that cut across one another at Santa Cruz de la Sierra in Bolivia. According to Amereida, this will be the poetic capital of South America and therefore the natural destination of the inaugural journey. The poem consolidates a vision of South America as a new project that in some way recalled the tabula rasa, a new continental capital the omission of political border, and in a certain sense, the omission of the pre-existing culture before the arrival of the European colonizers. It is an empty and invented territory, an island sea detached from a larger context to the point that it rebels against and inverts the North-South order. If we go back in time to the 1940s, to the same year in which the imagination work was published in New York, the Uruguayan Joaquín Torres Garcia has already drawn a precedent for Amereda, the invented map of South America declaring the South is our North. And in doing so, he recognizes the differences between how the word is read and constructed from Europe compared to South America. Here, for one thing, as the sun travels across the sky from the north, it appears somewhere else. But unlike the map produced by the member of Amereda, the declared autonomy from the northern hemisphere is nuanced by the presence of the Isthmus of Panama and the drawing of the Caravelle on the Atlantic coast. Both figures speak of links and connection with other territories and understand the impossibility of isolation. Both South America, that of the Valparaiso group and that of the Joaquín Torres Garcia, are nuanced attempts at decolonization and affirmation of the differences between this territory and Europe and the impossibility of any direct transfer between the two. And also the scope of globalization seems to have proved the imagination word and its fluid space of collapsed times and homogenization, right? Globalization is not implemented homogeneously, and it is not an hegemonic as it seems. In a way, Buckminster Fuller's map and the inverted Americas of Torres Garcia and Amereda are today two layers of the same reality. One last cartography to review today are the drawings from the Corbusier trip to South America in 1929, which illustrate not only his proposal for the business city in Buenos Aires, a series of 650 feet skyscraper to be installed on the platform over the Rio de la Plata, but fundamentally America as an empty field open to experiment and to the future. Le Corbusier took cross-section before and after the proposal crossed the continent sideways, starting with the Atlantic coast on the left and ending with the Andes mountain range of the right, and then the Pacific Ocean. Paradoxically, these cross-sections are made facing south. Chile, as seen by Le Corbusier in 1929, is the way the Andes mountains fall into the Pacific. It is something less than a cliff. It is a rugged, somehow wordless territory. It is the place of the accident, of the catastrophe, of the earthquake. And Le Corbusier is not wrong. It is the meeting point between the Nazca Plate and the South America Plate. It is literally a crack, a place of friction. In Chile, as in many countries of the region, it is often tragedy that have shaped our history. Emergency has been a fairly permanent state, and our relationship with it is one of tense coexistence. Repairing there is unavoidable, and in this context, it acquires physical, symbolic, and social dimension. The inverted America, the one that looks toward its inland sea, Le Corbusier promise of the future, is a reality that has been repaired 1,000 times, full of seams and patches, but that is far from being the only thing we need to do today. That is That is why some initiatives that seek to influence global agendas, such as those proposing global moratoria on construction, stop demolition, and others, do not seem to be the most efficient answer for the urgent need we have at the planet, and do not seem to fit in these scenarios of enormous deficit. At least they should not be adopted without adjustment, without translation, or at least without distortion. Somehow America must once again insist on that south that is north of that inland sea of the mid of the 20th century. In any case, and returning to the action of repairing at the damage that activated, Chilean art researcher Ariel Florencia Richard writes in the catalogue of the latest exhibition of Marcela Correa, the Chile's most important contemporary sculptor, I quote, "Cracks mark a break in the landscape and always signal something that changes. They are an interruption into what was continued. One does not usually talk about the benefit of crack, and I say, there are a respite, a good interruption, because the wind blows through the crack. They oxygenate, they ventilate, they generate new air." I will now to present some projects. All are linked in some way to the action of repairing, and all are offer opportunity for the present. The first seeks to repair a historical debt. Invited by the renowned Chilean visual artist Josefina Guilizasti in 2021, we won a public competition to build the first urban sculpture dedicated to women to be installed in a public space in Chile. Recent debate over the figure of the monument determined the formal and symbolic decision taken in our proposal. It is in part symbolic, in part action. Fear of dissonance mingles in it with the need to be together and build a new social fabric. The work is near completion and stands in the Parque Mapocho Rio, one of the most important urban projects currently under development, a public green area covering the southern bank of the Mapocho River that crosses the city of Santiago in an east-west direction, as seen in this aerial photograph. At the level of making the fabric that binds together the material culture of various geographies in America goes back to ancestral Basquerie and to the work that is crystallized in a trade passed down from generation to generation among women artisans. The choice of these images seeks to connect creatively with the present political context and its relationship with the public art. Somehow, dissent and irresolution are now the essence of public life in our country and maybe worldwide. Representation of women is expressed in a greater plurality and diversity, but also in the acknowledgement that today that is a task, an horizon that is still under construction. The second project centers on the debate about global warming and timber construction as a possibility for facing present and future deficit. In this sense, it participates in a process of repairing ecological and environmental damage by proposing solutions with low CO2 emission. It is also part of a research we have been having in our studio about the structural and spatial capacity of vaults to define spaces with strong internal character. Arauco, one of the most important Chilean companies with a global presence, launched a competition in 2022 for the development of a high-rise building project entirely in wood in Chile for the first time. The building had to come up with an innovative, replicable, and industrializable system of high-rise construction. This project, developed jointly in 2019 with Paula Velasco, Dr. Joseph Schwartz, and Pierluigi D'Acunto from ETH Zurich, in a competition for the design of Arauco headquarters, sought to achieve clean and restful wood surfaces in a highly transparent and light-filled space, aided by the precision of prefabrication method in wood construction. The exploration of material had addressed the way of combining the structure and ambience in a single entity by removing most secondary elements. It focuses on the vault as a supporting structural element capable of producing a qualitative spatial effect. We came up with a system that solved the structure, the floors, and the ceiling, as well as technical spaces for the network of installation inside the building, by using a single construction component, thereby expanding the range of flexibility for the organization of the plan. The supporting structure consists of a system of columns and wooden slab composed of unidirectional strip with a hollow cross-section of almost triangular shape, supported by solid column made of laminated wood. The slab element will be assembled using post-tensioning cable linked to the wooden element located in the top and the bottom of the beams. The 90 degrees change of direction of the beam from one floor to the next allows each beam to be supported even every 18 meters by column and vertical traction cables. The reinforced concrete cores are activated to resist wind and earthquake, as well as other sources of lateral load. From its synthetic nature, the structure of this proposal embodied much more than the mere solution of load transmission or the stability of the building. Rather, it brought together in its own reality the material, atmospheric, and orderly dimension of the project, while enhancing its performative capacity. At first glance, it appeared to be a concealed structure. However, it is very much exposed. Everything we will have seen in the building is a structure. Every surface making up the space is both architecture and structure. Floors and ceilings are two sides of the same component, precisely designed and calculated to meet architecture and structural requirements simultaneously and as efficiently as possible. Nothing is surplus, everything is bone. In the same vein, but in a domestic scale, I will very quickly show you two series of houses built in the last 2 years, several of them still under construction. I apologize for the quality of the photos. Most of them are just construction records. In a similar vein, but after the pandemic, our students experienced a sharp decline of work from which we are only now beginning to recover, as many other offices around the world. Only a few houses came our way, all located in rural or coastal areas. We have come to call them the houses without corridor. The first project was for an older couple who wanted a home from themselves, but with enough space to accommodate their adult children and families. The design has to be flexible, able to function for the couple along as well for the expanded group. The second was a standard family, standard quote, family, father, mother, and 4 children. The third, again for a couple, had the added function of hosting their adult daughter and elderly parent. We approach the three commissions with a set of clear constraints. The houses had to be low cost by a square meter, had to be compact and autonomous in relation with their context. They had to feature a single floor plan, and they had to be conceived using a single unified material system. The section will give each house its unique identity. All three houses were constructed using radiate pine, modeled with CAD work and connected to CNC machine for precise manufacturing of each wooden piece. The assembly process on site was akin to build a large-scale mechano set where numbered components easily fit together. This is one of the house built in the coast. This approach allows us to offer an efficient solution for both an economic and environmental standpoint, while also ensuring fast, clean, and precise construction process. This is the second one. Each house incorporates polycarbonate covered verandas which provide protected outdoor spaces without sacrificing interior light. Some of these projects are still under construction, like this one. Using the same construction system, we built two additional units, this time in the form of articulated pavilions. The first is an artist residence in Patagonia, inspired by the traditional Inca cancha. The design included a perimeter fence that defined a small-scale domestic territory, while also serving as a mediator between the residents and the surrounding geography of the Rio Valle Valley in Aysén. Within the enclosed area, 4 pavilions are grouped and arranged around a greenhouse, organize the public and private spaces in the residence. The final house in this series features 3 pavilions arranged around an inner courtyard. The structure used the Solinger system, which consists of a small section wooden slat, creating clean open hall beneath which the various functions are organized. Each pavilion serves a specific purpose and can operate independently one of the other. This project is the National Park, the Queulat National Park public infrastructure. It was a competition we won in 2016. It has been built, but by phases. They started with the path, the corridor, all the trekking areas, and we hope someday there will be the rest of the project also being built. This it's about. This project was made in a protected area, so the strategy was to define a prefabricated element that were to be mounted on site without making any kind of movement of the land. So we decided to really focus on element that damage at least minimum intervention on the site, so to be able to dismount this structure and keep the site as it was before. The project comprised more than, and here you can see where it is with this yellow triangle in the top, in your left, right. And the project comprised more than 15 different buildings, small and medium scale, scattered in a large area, about 150,000 hectares. And however, most of the public areas are concentrated alongside the Carretera Austral, which crosses part of the Chile southern region. The tender process for construction is now starting. It is ongoing. And Queulat is a fjord region in Patagonia, very close to the sea. Its most significant feature is the Queulat snow cap and its hanging glacier, which we can see here. The project included the design of all the public installations in the national park, as well as a number of prefabricated walkways that will protect the fragile land ecosystem from visitor impact. We were also asked to consolidate lookout and areas and shelters along the trekking path in order to replace the precarious infrastructure currently in place. The project considers a series of buildings that will house 3 visitor centers, ranger station, houses for the park rangers, mountain lodge, camping facilities, among others. All of them were designed departing from the same structural module on the generated of a single bay, 6.1 meter wide, and a mono-pitch roof section. The association and combination of this generic unit allows deploying a variety of layouts. And here, I don't know if it is clear for you, but there are the plan of the 3 centers, main structure of the system in the park. The 6.1 meter wide bay could accommodate at the park the National Forest Corporation offices and houses along the park, and offer the possibility of enclosing a small portion of the forest to create a courtyard-like space that serves as a mirror to the different areas of the large visitor center at Ventisquero Colgante, which is the bigger part of the park. And this is the section that makes the whole project possible. A steep pitch roof characterizes the section of the unit which need to withstand harsh weather conditions, including snowfall and heavy rains. Likewise, the section also reduces the three-dimensional expression of the building in the landscape to a large silent surface of curtain in which color and texture will fade into nature with time. Here, some part of the exhibition areas inside of the communication center. And the project also considers a small structure to protect the trekkers around the park. And also the construction of bridges, paths, and many other construction to protect the part that are very, very fragile in the region. So all the structure are solved with the same material palette and also the same structural development. Maybe, I hope this will work. Let's see. It's a video that shows a little bit of the project. This is the park. and the Carretera Austral that crosses. And those are the intervention areas and all the facilities that has to be included. This is the basic structural system, all prefabricated and mounted on site as a mechano. Each of the center had an exhibition area that is connected to the particular characteristic of the particular site of the park, and among other facilities. This is the main part of the park, with many other facilities are located. And where administration of the park is also present in the building. There is an auditorium, exhibition area, a cafeteria, services for the public. So, we will continue. This is two more projects. The last one I will show you tonight. And it's about the notion of amalgam or infill as a substantial part of repair processes, and about the architectural ability to unite with the pre-existing structure through the introduction of new matter inside vacant spaces. In our context, this void waiting to be occupied are often degraded structures from the late 19th century. On the left, you can see the ruin of the Supercasó Palacio in Valparaíso. On your right, the emptied central space of the Palacio Pereira in Santiago. Unfortunately, here you cannot see what is in there, but it's a diagrammatic representation of the operation that each of the projects are involving. Earthquake and fire have taken their toll, but have opened opportunity to infill and introduce new construction. They can reinforce our structure and at the same time update outmoded spatial systems. The first will be the National Archive of Valparaíso, on which we are currently working after winning a public competition in 2022. The building should start the construction stage at the end of 2025. We hope that will happen, which is something not always sure in our country. Valparaíso was Chile's main port during the 19th century and has a particular urban morphology that has driven a process of adaptive urban occupation. I hope this was not for me. No? I am in time. It was Chile's first port, and in 2003, UNESCO declared the historical district of Valparaiso as a World Heritage Site. Occupation of the bay began in the mid-16th century, and given the scarcity of the flat terrain close to the port and the coastline, the densification and overlapping of activities was feature of the spatial programmatic structure of this neighborhood. It is still possible to find buildings whose architecture bears witness to the coexistence of economic and residential activity, as seen in vertical adjoining warehouse, commercial premises, offices, and living spaces. The Palacio Subercaseaux on the left in this photograph belong to the typology of mixed-use building for rent, which occupy a large part of the Valparaiso flatland. However, 20th century economic transformations require the port's progressive modernization, which meant that the city was gradually left behind. As one of the initiatives aimed to reactivate Valparaiso and halt the city accelerating decline, the restoration of the Palacio Subercaseaux and the installation within of the Valparaiso Regional Archive is an opportunity to lay the foundation for a process of urban renewal as an area of great fragility. It is likely, or rather to be expected, that restoration of the remains of the Palacio Subercaseaux will be a model for future intervention in the historic part of the city. Our proposal strives to defend and protect the urban profile, which seemed to be, for us, the most significant value of the project. What is left of the Palacio Subercaseaux today is a container without content, a cup without the capacity to hold the amount of liquid required by the program. Its style is materiality and shape conflict with that program, whose dimensions were too great for the space available. This dilemma forces a new focus on the building as facade. The conservation and restoration of the facade and a few other building elements are still preserved which comply with the Venice Charter to ensure their permanence without questioning or prejudice, thus adapting the intervention to what is pre-established by the existing structure. But when what remains is only the surface and not the architecture substance, a new approach is necessary to avoid the inherent risk of restoring to facadism, in which the packaging hides a contemporary body in disguise. This creates a double negative effect. The new is embarrassed, while the old no longer makes sense. The new building filled the space fed by the gas explosion that destroyed the entire interior of the building in 2007. The facade and its interior are interlocked. This structural connection offers a fine and fragile texture given density to the space that mediates between one materiality and another, between one time and another. The supporting function between the new interior and the fragile existing facade is ambiguous. Is the original masonry facade what supports the technical space of the archive, or is the archive that holds up and strengthens the original facade? We don't know what to answer this question. Instead, by concentrating the project focus especially on this physical and conceptual space, we can bring together conservation and contemporaneity, connection and discretion, past and future. What we prefer to do is simply to show interest. What is durable, we support. What is integral, we keep. What is damaged, we replace with materials similar to the original ones. We don't make judgments about aesthetic, even maybe the building is not really interesting as itself. The only addition will be to set up an horizontal steel element which will allow different degree of protection and support the functional need to the entrance level. Our main goal was to establish the height of the new building in order to maintain the ratio of the historic areas measurement and proportion, and to recognize the two ways to inhabit Valparaiso, from the urban and from the geographic scale. This meant a compact and dense structure which satisfied the client's requirement but defend the urban volumetry. 3 vertical layers suggest a new order. Ground level, which is what we are seeing here, connecting the urban realm and the interior toward the archive offices. Then a secondary layer, deposit, occupy a large part of the height of the historical remain, organized in 3 open plan externally covered by a layer of yellow ochre felt. Finally, on top but below the roof, the 3rd layer houses the offices of the Regional Heritage Service. And this part is connected with the big scale of the Bay of Valparaiso. The final project is the Palacio Pereira. It was developed by a multidisciplinary team and involved the renovation and restoration of a fairly damaged structure and the construction of a new building on the lot. Originally built with adobe brick and wooden structure, during his first century, Santiago was somehow horizontal and low-density conurbanation. Our palaces, again quote, if they really existed at all, were barely mirages that hid behind ornate facade, interior garden, and mud walls. Periodic earthquakes took their toll, and well into the 20th century, the fragile fabric that was Santiago had to be rebuilt from time to time. In the case of this building, a large section was demolished over time, spoiling its original layout. And the center plan is what remained once we start with the project. Our project tried to recover the ratio of ground occupation as in the original setting while reconfiguring the courtyard at the back of the lot. The operation of infilling that we propose bring back the original form to the plot as originally built, while providing the opportunity to reinforce the structure of the historical remain. This double operation also provides accommodation for several offices of the Ministry of Culture and Heritage, which are the client for this building. The new wing is basically a series of open space around a central courtyard that restore the urban fabric that Eno proposed originally. Repetitive K-shape 25 per 25 pillar in smooth concrete separate at 1.59 centimeters from each other, built up the interior facade, aiming for a porous and light interior and an ambiguous borderline. That three-dimensional facade emphasized the temporary and dynamic nature of what we understand as an heritage intervention, alluding to a work in progress and a translucent lattice. The links and connection between the old and the new building are treated without ceremony. It is about juxtaposing friction and the encounter of different time, material, and technologies. The noisy and dense isotropic concept for the structure made out of concrete columns stand in contrast to the continuity and massiveness of the masonry walls without concealing them. The cave-shaped pillar stand as a memorable feature of the new structure. They provide protection from the sun and introduce an airy space which mediate between the old restored structure and the new spaces around the courtyard. The three-dimensional condition of this borderline also create a transitional relational space that help understand the situation of the new building and the historical residence. It celebrates the simultaneity and coexistence of different periods and of time superimposed on one another. Lucien Ambroise-Hainaut was one of the European professionals that the Chilean state brought to the country to design work that would be emblematic for the new republic's institutional order. During his stay in Chile, he enjoyed connection to the local elite, and alongside his public work, he accepted some private commissions, such as the Luz Pereira's residency in 1872. Hainaut designed a building for the Pereira family in neoclassical style, following iconic and Corinthian principle, with two levels on its main front. Its positioning addresses to the still colonial urban structure in how it occupied the plot and respect the uninterrupted continuous facade of Santiago Historical Center. However, typologically, it displays new uses and systems of distribution. In the first place, it takes into consideration the greater complexity and stratification of social relations, and second, it provides a scenography suited to the new domestic aspiration of the late 19th century's elite. The transept is a main element within the plan. It organizes and orients the most important spaces in the ground floor. This glazed gallery led from the street to a series of rooms and salons, and then entered in a patio that occupied the rear of the property and separate the services areas from those used by the family. Key to the organization of all the spaces of the house, the gallery was intended to serve as an interior street, as a place of representation, circulation, and chance encounters. At the end of the 70s, and shortly after being declared a national monument, the building entered a phase of decay and abandonment. The Chilean state bought the building in 2011 to transform it into the headquarters of the Ministry of Culture, Art and Heritage. A year later, together with architect Paula Velasco and Alberto Moleto, and a group of advisors and specialists such as Alan Chandler, Fernando Perez, and Luis Cercos in the field of restoration, and Pedro Bartolomé and Cristian Sandoval in engineering and structural consolidation, we won the international competition announced by the government, and the process of recovering the Palacio Pereira began. The restoration of the historic building can be understood as a material operation that will restore it to its original splendor, but this will also imply ignoring the history of the building and its future. It would mean placing us as restorers in the role of being authorities with power to collapse history at an arbitrarily defined juncture, eliminated all traces and the value they have that time has left imprinted in the building fabric. The way in which conservation and renovation were amalgamated in the project was crucial in order to inject life into the building by wrapping, protecting, making visible, and incorporated its condition as a ruin also. William Morris celebrated the superimposition of times and uses based on the requirement that buildings were expected to meet. But this was nuanced by the way in which these superimpositions were executed. The skill with which such adjustments were introduced must have been a treatment to his artistic ability. Intrinsically, what was to be done included how it was done. The restoration of the Palacio Pereira involved the recovery of many already lost trades, and there was especially care for the detail with which different aspects of the project were resolved. The material strategy is a central key on this. The project sought to comprehend its complexity without prioritizing either the new intervention or the elegant and decadent character of the Palacio. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cecilia, for the beautiful lecture. And now we propose you a 10 minutes break. And please keep in mind the questions for the end of the day. So see you here in 10 minutes.